Hello everybody and welcome to another build video. I'm trying to get this one out because it's already quite late at night and I can feel that I'm getting quite tired, so I should probably do this before my commentary really starts to suffer for it. I wanted to do an Elementalist build video on a more support type build because all of my previous ones have some have been like hybrids, but mostly they've just been, let's see how much damage we can do and the various ways to do damage on an Elementalist. I'm really kind of happy that I chose to main, if you will, this class because there seem to be so many different ways to run it. This is a build actually I've ran kind of weird versions of a lot in the past, but recently with the last big update they did, they made some nice changes to the way some auras in the game works, which does affect all classes, but for this particular build, the buff actually was really useful. So I kind of wanted to show this off. I'm still not sure if it's 100% the best kind of support Elementalist you can roll, but I do think it's definitely much better than staff healing support, which is the first thing everybody thinks of when they imagine a support Elementalist, which I think is a bit naive. I don't think the staff really for support is necessarily that strong. The way that this build chooses to support people is through delivering boons to everyone through auras. So I give them defensive properties because of the aura itself, but then I also grant them various boons coming out of that. So if you look right now at the footage, this was something I recorded earlier before I jump in game to show you the specifics. This is just a group of 5 people. I rounded up in a couple of seconds. And we're just running from Lion's Arch to the Vigil Keep. And if you have a look mainly at the active effects on everyone, you'll see everybody has definitely 100% permanent Swiftness and Fury, which isn't that great and not particularly defensive either, especially not Fury. But you also see we have almost, I would say like 95% upkeep of Protection as well, the Protection boon, which is quite nice. Here, there are 2 different ways to run this build. This is my attempt at trying to have my cake and to eat it too, if you will. I will describe both versions of the build, and I will describe what I think are the biggest problems with a build like this, namely that it takes up all your utility slots, and the way I've been playing the game recently, I like to swap my utilities quite frequently. But it's an interesting build, I quite like it. In a lot of ways, it means that every 3rd attack that ever goes at your entire team will just be completely negated, because it has uptime of Protection, which is an incredibly powerful boon, as much as you could possibly want it, as well as obviously the other buffs increasing your damage and so forth. So anyway, that's just a little bit of an example in a group scenario. I'll show you me doing a dungeon, the Ascalon Catacombs, as well with the build in just a moment, but let's actually jump in and I'll talk to you guys about the specifics where I can actually kind of point things out a little bit better. So let's do it. No, wave, there we go. Okay, hello everybody. We're just here in game now. I'm at the Talu's water slide just because I'm desperately trying to find a good place to film this build video, as I've been trying with every build video I've done, because this isn't necessarily about combat so much as it just the effectiveness of boons and so forth. I thought I'd go to a really weird place. This is near Talu's chute in the first game, actually. A really cool, weird little water thing here that I have no idea why it exists. There's no dynamic events. There's nothing going on here whatsoever. But it's a cool little hidden area that I like to come to every now and then. And I thought it might be nice to show the build video here. But anyway, that's by the by. So the premise of this build is you're sharing out auras which give plenty of boons, as I've described, and hopefully as you've seen there. Now the way we do this is through Signets. The weapons I've chosen are Dagger Dagger. Really, you're only going to want to go Dagger Dagger or Scepter Dagger. Scepter Dagger will mean that you get far less boons. I look at this as a very unconventional support build, as I say, because most people like to just go staff support and they think that heals is all that matters, which I couldn't disagree with more. I think that the boons that this thing can throw out, the actual damage mitigation, avoiding the damage coming in the first place, is far superior to any heals that the Elementalist could throw out. And at first, I'll just open up by showing you why I don't like the staff, namely. So right now, I've actually got full Cleric set on. I've got full, it's not Ascended, but I've got full level 80 exotic Cleric's gear on. That would be Sapphire Orichalcum Amulet of the Cleric, with rings and earrings here, which gives us full healing power. My traits give me maximum healing power that I possibly can, and my armor too is giving me lots of healing power. That it could have a little bit more, honestly. Through the runes you could have a little bit more healing power, but I do still have healing power as the major stat on the actual armor itself. And still I only have, well, I'm slightly scaled down right now, but I only have 838 healing power, and even when I'm not scaled down it's like 1100 healing power, which isn't that significant. So I am scaled down right now. Let's consider that I've got 10,000 max health at the moment. and actually have a look at the staff heals. We've got namely skill 3. It's only 688 heals over 2 seconds, and the field is so small, I always get put off using this because it doesn't last long enough for somebody to react to it, to run into it, actually heal them up, and it doesn't heal them enough even if they did notice where it was. If you were to, say, cast it on a stationary character, which people shouldn't really be in Guild Wars, so you shouldn't be stationary, you're not going to heal them for that much, honestly, with the skill 3, and especially you don't want your whole team that are low on health and ready to die, who really need a heal, to be clustering up on a tiny point like this. So I find skill 3 kind of moot. Skill 5 is far more powerful. Skill 5 gives you a lot of regeneration healing, which is always very nice, very strong. Over 5 seconds, 4k of health. But still, this thing only lasts for 6 seconds. It will pulse that regeneration out, which has some nice stacking benefits with some Elementalist traits, namely the one that removes conditions every time you get regeneration, but still I don't think it's strong enough. The field doesn't last that long. The fact is a water field is quite strong, but then we're on a 36-second cooldown. I don't agree with taking a staff just for this one skill, because I find that one to be useless. Staff is far more strong for its CC capabilities. It has incredible CC on many of the different skills. For example, skill 3 here, Gust, you've got Static Field. The most strong CC in Earth, you've got Unsteady Ground, which will cripple people. The most you've got an Immobilize as well in Earth that lasts a reasonable amount of time. The strongest CC, in my opinion, in the entire game that's not an Immobilize, for example, is the Frozen Ground. This skill is unbelievable. 5 seconds, and the chill will just last forever, and it's over a massive area. Very, very cool, and it's a nice field, which are kind of rare in Guild Wars too. If you notice, there's only like 3 skills that belong to professions that actually lay down ice fields, which is really kind of weird. But anyway, I do think the staff's a good weapon, but it shines in other areas, namely world versus world. So this is why I'm kind of against a staff support elementalist that's focusing on healing power. I just don't think it's that strong. So let's have a look at my dual daggers, which is what I've gone with here. Again, you can go with Scepter Dagger, but if you go Dagger, this enables you to have Shocking Aura, which is on its own a very strong aura anyway. It will stun enemies, remove stacks of Defiant, and so forth for anyone attacking anyone on your team for as long as it's up, and it lasts 4 seconds. So it's a strong aura just alone, but because we're spec'd for auras here, it makes it even stronger. So I don't like to give up Shocking Aura whatsoever. Scepter's obviously your only other option. Why not Focus? I feel like I say this every single build video. Focus isn't that strong. You do get an aura on it, but it's not as strong as Frost Aura, which you get from Dagger offhand. So this is why I'm on Dagger rather than Scepter Dagger. The only benefit of Scepter Dagger really is that you get skill 3 Water Trident on there, which is for some nice heals. But again, it comes down to that split of I prefer to mitigate the damage in the first place than try and heal people up afterwards. I don't think it's as effective in Guild Wars 2, and it was never really designed to be that effective. They didn't really like the idea of, you know, core healers as people are probably used to in other MMOs. Anyway, let's stop rambling about that. Let's actually look at how our traits are set up, how this thing all ties together. So first of all, you notice I've got 4 Signets. I've talked about kind of a weird, what I now consider to be a prototype build of this a long time ago. I've talked about it before. We've got 4 Signets, and the premise is, first we go 30 into Water Magic, plenty of Vitality, plenty of Healing Power, which is good because we're in a support role, and we're going to choose the final trait, which shares auras to nearby allies. This will affect up to 5 allies, I think, or perhaps it's only 4 allies. Regardless, it will put it on every member of your team if you're in any kind of end game situation, such as fractals or dungeons, which is awesome. So you're going to be sharing that out to everyone. Everyone's getting the benefit now of Shocking Aura, everyone's getting the benefit of Frost Aura and so forth. These 2 traits are largely irrelevant. You do have a little bit of choice. I go for Water Weapon Skills recharge 20% faster here because it reduces the cooldown of the Frost Aura to 32 seconds, which I feel is quite important. At a 32-second cooldown with a duration of 7 seconds, it means about a fifth of the time Frost Aura is up, which is nice, and I'll explain why that's nice in a second. As for the other trait, you can go with whatever you want. I look at this as still kind of a bit of a hybrid build. It's a support build, but it still does a lot of damage, and you can boost that damage through Vital Striking, which gives you extra damage when you're above 90% health. Or you can go for even more kind of raw support by removing conditions when you switch to Water Attunement, which is an incredible trait and I would usually take. So anyway, we're sharing our auras, just understand that from Water Magic. Then from Fire Magic, we've gone 20 in so that every time we activate a Signet, we get a Fire Aura. So we use a Signet, we get the benefit of the Signet, and then we give ourselves a Fire Aura, which is then shared to other people. So Signet of Air, for example, this is instant activation. I trigger it, I get myself a Fire Shield, as you can see here, right? and that will share out to everyone else. Now, for the other 2 lines that I've gone into, I've gone 10 into Air Magic, because now those auras are giving Fury and Swiftness in addition to their actual, just core benefits. And I've gone 10 into Earth Magic, which means that they also grant protection in addition to their core things. So I trigger an instant activation Signet of Air, and I share a Fire Shield with everyone, along with Protection, Swiftness, and Fury. The Protection ticks off quicker than the Fury and Swiftness, but all of them will be on all the time. If you go back to the start of this video, you'll see if I just keep rotating through my signets here and my auras, you can easily get that Swiftness and Fury to last well over a minute, and you can just kind of be hanging about doing whatever the hell you want, and it will just keep ticking up. Already it's at 30 seconds, and I'll be off of cooldown much quicker than I really need to be. I can get even more Swiftness there. So Swiftness and Fury will just be a permanent boon on your entire team. It really will. It will just always be there, because even if somebody misses you sharing like maybe one aura, it doesn't matter, because they're going to get the benefit of a different one, and it all lasts for so very long that the benefits will just stack up and up and up. So here all you're watching me doing on screen is just cycling through my signets. You'll notice I'm cycling through my heal skill, which isn't necessarily the best thing to be doing, but I'll talk about that later. I'm just cycling through all of this stuff, and my boons are ticking up. They're now at 40 seconds, and it will just continue to go up and up and up as the cooldowns come down, as everything gets shorter. If I'm a little bit more clever about where I swap through my achievements, it will continue to raise. And as you can see, everything just stays on pretty much all the time. I have eaten something that boosts boon duration right now, because you will notice, so here you can see like I got 54 seconds of Swiftness. It will just keep going up. You will notice I'm not in Arcane. That's the one, this is like the split that you get as a decision for this Elementalist build. You can either go 10 into Earth Magic, Air Magic, which will give you Fury and Swiftness to all of these, or you can go 10 into Arcane, which will boost your boon duration, making it easier to have this protection last forever, but also you can take a trait that gives different boons when you swap anyway. So this is giving Fury and Swiftness. If we went 10 into Arcane, we would still get Swiftness from when we go into Air Achievement. We'd still get that, right? So that's fine. We would also get our own personal version of Fury as well whenever we swapped achievements, so you can kind of get that too. But you'll also get on top of that regeneration. However, by using that trait, I don't like it so much, because those boons that come from just switching attunement necessarily don't last that long, and you won't be able to permanently have Fury and Swiftness anymore. You will, however, then definitely have permanent protection. It will go from like being up 95% of the time to being up all of the time, and you don't have to rely on using your heal skill either. So that's a choice you've got to make. I like to go with Air Magic and Earth Magic, so I can get all 3. And then if you pop a consumable, you don't necessarily need this, but if you do pop a consumable, then it will help you out a lot. I did once experiment with getting my boon duration higher than it currently is, which you can see right now is 35%. I'll tell you now, don't go for winter trinkets. I wasted a bunch of money before filming this video, because I tried to use like snowflakes, which have boon duration, and if you have a full exotic set at level 80, that boon duration goes up to 10%, so I'd be on 45%, but they're bugged. They're completely bugged. They don't work, so just screw it. Don't go for them whatsoever. Instead, I'm demonstrating here Sapphire stuff, which boosts my healing power, which also isn't necessary for this build. No, you don't really need healing power, because a lot of where this provides support is through reducing the amount of damage your team takes rather than trying to heal them up. So you could still be on very offensive gear and run a setup like this, which is often what I do in fractals. Quite high fractals too, around scale 20, and I've been perfectly fine running like that. So you don't have to go fully support, but I'm showing off kind of very support-oriented gear here, because that's kind of what this video is about. You'll see my weapons too. These are called the Soul Shards. They're quite cool weapons. They're just healing power daggers, quite cheap ones. The sigils on them, you can choose whatever you like. My sigils I haven't actually changed right now. For a support sigil though, I would say don't go for a sigil of water, which is the one that says, oh, a 30% chance to heal people. It's rubbish. It's really bad, honestly. It's a 30% chance on crits, and it heals for a pathetically low amount, and it's got like a big cooldown on it. They're just like the worst sigils in the world. So don't go for those if you want to go for support. Go for something else. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing on my gear side. And to demonstrate to you guys how this really shines because of a recent update, it used to be a fire shield which we're getting from all of these signets that you're seeing pop up all the time. This thing used to be a really bad aura. All it would do would mean if somebody attacked you, they maybe only even had a chance to get burning inflicted on themselves, right? And it was a really low amount of burning as well. It was like burning for 1 second, possibly, if you were attacked while these shields were up. And you see the shield itself doesn't last for that long. The boons last for a while, but the shield doesn't necessarily. So it used to be kind of really bad for the build. Another thing that wasn't necessarily so great was the Frost Aura, which I've got on my dagger offhand in Water Attunement here. This Frost Aura it lasted 7 seconds, but all it would do would mean if somebody attacked you, you would inflict shield to them, and that was it. So both the Fire and the Frost Aura, which I've got in abundance on this build, were kind of naff. The best aura by far was this Shocking Aura, which is, you know, very, very strong. It's a very hard form of CC if somebody attacks you. Well, in the recent update, ArenaNet actually buffed, first of all, the fire auras, which I get on me nearly all the time. If you watch, I can just maintain this for ages and ages and ages and ages. And if you really want, you could even run with a focus and have this thing go up for even longer, because the focus now offers like 5 seconds of fire shield, which is pretty crazy. But the buff that occurred means that these fire shields we now get, these actually, as well as burning people that attack you, they cause you to gain might for yourself. So now you're ticking might up, not only on yourself every time your team's getting attacked, but your entire team is getting lots of free stacks of might coming out of nowhere, which is really cool and stacks very nicely with your typical Elementalist abilities and combo fields that give you might. If you saw just there, I was on 9 stacks, which is pretty nice. So that was a nice buff, but even more importantly than that, the Frost Aura now still has the chilled effect, but it also reduces incoming damage by 10% on its own. Percentage-based damage reduction is incredibly strong. That's why protection itself as a boon is one of the strongest in the game, in my opinion. This thing will decrease any damage you take by 33%. It's a really significant number that scales very well high-end into very difficult content later on in the game. And what this essentially means, combined with the new buff from the Frost Aura, is we can kind of go and have a look at this abomination here, is at the click of a single button, I'm giving myself Fury, Swiftness, and 43% damage reduction to the entire team. And that will last for 7 seconds. It's a hell of a lot of damage reduction, and as I said, that will be up a fifth of the time that you're ever fighting. These things are going to be shared across your entire team, and it's quite nice. So that's kind of the way that I like to run support with this. And that's all completely independent of gear. Only boon duration, which you can't build into gear very well, as I say, because winter stuff is like buggy as hell. Where you can build your boon duration slightly higher is you can fiddle around with your runes. You can go, for example, I've got 2 runes of the earth, which will increase my protection duration, which is great, and then that will get shared out for longer for 20%, which is nice. I've also got 2 runes of the water, which is boosting my healing power, as well as even more boon duration. In PvE, that's 15%. In PvP, it's 10%. This build doesn't really work in PvP. So it'll boost me even more there with boon duration. And then what you can do is you can even go another 2 runes. You could go like 2 runes of the monk, which come from Ascalon Catacombs, and that will give you another 15% boon duration, which is a nice idea. But I'm actually running runes of the altruism right now, which give me a benefit at 2. First, it gives me healing power, which is nice, but also at the second rank of it, I give 3 stacks of might to nearby allies when using a heal skill. So here's one of the problems that I find with this build. It's really weird seeing players out here. Oh my god, look at that. Here's one of the problems I found with this build. To really maintain all of this stuff, I'm relying on actually using my heal skill quite frequently. So you have to be careful and clever about when you pop it. You should always pop your heal skill last, this final Signet, and try to use it when you've actually already taken damage. Because by doing that, you can ensure you actually get the functionality out of it. Obviously, Signets as a skill type, and this is completely almost irrelevant to what this build is, Signets offer a passive benefit as well as an active one, right? And kind of with this build, because we're popping our Signets whenever they come off of cooldown, I never really see the passive benefits. And the passive benefit of the heal skill in particular is very strong. So you've got to be careful about when you're using that skill. And I don't really like that it's a little bit dependent on popping that to get the boons off to your entire team. So one way that I've kind of made it feel a little bit better using that is by going with this rune of altruism, which means even though I have to kind of use my Signet of restoration, at least at the same time, I'm sharing 3 stacks of might to everyone on my team. Look at all these boons that come up straight away. So that's quite nice, and also with my trait spread where I've chosen not to go into Arcane, that does mean I'm missing out on a tiny little bit of might that I'd otherwise be getting from going into Fire Attunement anyway, and this is a way to bring that back. along those same lines, you can also make another choice while you're in water magic. One of these traits, I wouldn't really recommend it, but it's an underused trait and I quite like that it's viable. This trait here, Soothing Wave, you can take Soothing Wave and then you can take Signet of Water. And by popping Signet of Water with that trait, you're actually going to give yourself some regeneration. I don't really think it's worth spending a whole trait on doing that. But then, as you can see here, I've got loads of boons across myself without really putting any effort. That regeneration, however, won't be shared to your entire team, so it's like I say, I don't think it's too strong, but it's a nice excuse. That must be a bot. That guy's got to be a bot. If he's not a bot, I'll be... You can slap me if he's not a bot. Maybe he's not a bot. Yeah, I think he's just doing the heart. Anyway, so that would be the only reason I would ever use Signet of Water if I was going for that kind of crazy trait setup. Otherwise, I use the Signet of Earth. I think Signet of Earth is probably the best Signet Elementalists get. Very powerful condition that you launch on people. If you build for condition duration, which of course this build isn't, but you can put Immobilize up to like 6 seconds, I think. I demonstrated it on my condition Elementalist build video, which is pretty crazy. And the passive itself too, improving toughness, is nice, especially considering much of my gear is building toughness anyway, so it's playing to your strengths. The reason why I go with a Signet of Air and a Signet of Fire, and I would never swap these out, is because these two both have much shorter cooldowns than Earth and Water. So I'd rather take the two Signets with short cooldowns. And further, Signet of Air is instant activation, which is really nice. It means you can use it while you're going Churning Earth. You can use it in all kinds of different situations. It's a very free ability to use. Also, there's a bit of a bug with the Signet of Air where if you do have this kind of weird aura spec, I'm not sure what component of it is, whether it's the fact that we're getting auras from the Signet or whether it's the fact that I'm getting an aura that gives me these various boons. Something about it, though, means this actually sometimes becomes a stun breaker. You can't rely on it, but sometimes this will stun break for you, which is really cool. So it's nice to have Signet of Air there. You fall on the floor, you get this instant activation ability that seems to have, whether ArenaNet wanted it to or not, it will now stun break for you every now and then and maybe get you out of a tricky situation, which is very cool. So yeah, that's kind of the setup. Was there anything else really I wanted to say? You're elite once again. It doesn't really matter. You're elite. It doesn't come into it at all. Obviously, Dagger as well. You can use any other combo fields you so desire, such as going into a Ring of Fire and then a skill 3 in Earth. I'll try it on this Scaled Drake once I've finished my cooldown. That's another way to get yourself auras while you're in fights, and if you are using this build, I would very much advise you try to take advantage of that, because I don't believe this aura will actually be shared out, and I've messed that up there. The field will be gone before I can use the ability. I don't think if you get an aura through those means it will be shared to other people, but it will give you that extra toughness, that extra defense. You see, the thing is, when you have 43% damage reduction when you're in a fight against specific big attacks that come in your way, if you've also got really high toughness and healing power, then it's going to make it very easy for you to become kind of a tank of sorts, because... And I almost shudder saying tank, but you've got so much percentage-based damage reduction going on there that really plays nicely with already having a high toughness value, low health that's easy to heal back up through your water attunement and your water skills. That it all kind of plays off of each other quite nicely. The build is strong, but of course it's got its weaknesses because it's based on boons. The other thing that I don't really like about it, aside from the fact it's kind of built on the fact you're using your heal skill like this maybe slightly inefficiently. The other thing I don't really like about it, you got to be careful with the team setups you go in with this, because this is a bot that's just throwing out constant swiftness, fury, protection and might basically to your entire team. It's throwing these boons out. That can mean if you're now in a team that's got like 2 guardians who already can put out a fair bit of protection on their own, maybe not 100% on the whole team, but a fair bit, then you're not taking the most advantage that you could otherwise be having. So I do think this build shines most if you really figure out what every party member's doing. This would be kind of the support guy that's putting that stuff out, and you really make sure everybody else can focus on the DPS and take advantage of this might that you're giving them. Then that would be far better, but in some teams this won't gel so well. It's kind of like if you tried to make a team of 5 condition damage people. You know, it's built into this. You're not going to stack together nicely. So that's another thing that you've got to kind of watch out with a build like this. The last little downside as well that I can really think of would be that it requires you to have all these signets, which means you don't have the freedom that you might otherwise have with other builds, like my Arcane Elementalist build that I showed off. I use that 99% of the time. I prefer that build because when I'm in fractals, when I'm in dungeons, I can quickly swap out to an ice bow, for example, to break something, or I can swap to any of those kind of environmental specific abilities to get me through different things. So I prefer those other builds, but if you don't like so much micromanagement, if you do like being a supporty character that's just letting everybody whiz around all over the place, stacking up tons of might on each other because of your fire shields, because of your runes, and because of the fury as well. Don't forget this is a permanent plus 20% critical chance. It's quite fun. It's quite strong, and I've had a fair bit of fun playing with it. I think this is kind of the final version that I would roll with. And don't forget as well, as I say, you don't have to spec into healing power gear for this at all, because that's not really what the whole point of it is. So you can still be dealing a lot of damage. I'm fighting random stuff here, as you can see, but and I'm doing okay, but I don't have my offensive gear on. I could, in theory, runes aside, I think runes are quite important, but I could very much put all my crit damage armor on with just these runes, and I could put all of my crit damage ascended gear on as well, and be doing tons of damage, but still just helping people out just as much. Because at the end of the day, we get no boon duration from our traits, and we get about 15% from our armor, plus an extra 20 on just protection alone through our runes. Most of the boon duration I'm getting, that doesn't even affect the build that much, is from a consumable, which anybody can have. Oh, and on that note as well, one tiny thing as well that I'd like to end the video on is I talked about this decision. Do you want to go into arcane, or do you want to go into air magic, basically? I would always go into earth because protection is just so strong, but maybe if you don't like protection that much, maybe if you've got a garden, you could swap into arcane instead and go 20, 10, 0, 30, 10 perhaps. But anyway, the other thing you're losing from Arcana is basically you still get protection, because this trait will give you a different boon on achievement swaps, right? So if you go for this, what are you actually gaining? Well, we already have protection anyway, so the earth magic boon doesn't matter. We already have many sources of might anyway through combo fields and through our heal skill, so the fire achievement one doesn't matter. We already have a lot of swiftness, so the air achievement one doesn't matter. The only thing that you're missing is regeneration from water achievement, and regeneration is a nice trait. Is a nice boon. So that could be a bit of a shame, but then there are also, and I don't want to, you know, create builds that are reliant on consumables, but there are many ways to get regeneration out on your entire team anyway for when you really need it. For example, the healing seed pods, which I've talked about on different videos before, these are really strong. These will give you plenty of regeneration if you want, and put down a water field for you. So, you know, there are ways of getting around those. That's why I've ended up settling on this variant of the build, and yeah, so I don't even know really what to call this, but this is just kind of, this is one of the ways I play support Elementalist. Probably my favourite way to play support Elementalist. The only other way I do it is on really offensive builds that go 30 into Arcane, so I can dodge heal people, and I would go Scepter Dagger for Cleansing Wave, for Water Trident, which you get on the Scepter, and I would make sure I'm at least 15 into Water Magic for Healing Ripple. That's the best way. If you want to do support and heal people support, that's the best way to do it in my opinion, not through staff. It's Scepter Dagger. And 15 water at minimum and 30 arcane minimum, because in PvE at least, the dodge trait heals that you get still haven't been nerfed. Like, they're still very, very strong, very overpowered. So that's how I would heal people raw. But this is my my preferred way of doing it. I mean, I just love the Frost Aura, basically. I love that you could just pop that. And of course, the staff can offer a Frost Aura too, if you blast in the skill 5. But again, it comes down to picking an entire weapon for one ability. I just, you know, it cuts into your damage too much. You can do so much more damage with other abilities. You're only doing a lot of damage on staff if there's many enemies around you, and it's just not worth waiting for that situation, in my opinion. Anyway, there you go, guys. That's my little look at a way to play support on the Elementalist. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this, found something for a build maybe of yourself that you'd like to try out at some point. And yeah, I'll catch you next time for, I don't know what I'll do next. Maybe another utility belt? We'll see. Or I could do a Guild Wars 2 mystery.